Everybody Googles everything, especially potential customers or employers, and a business or personal online reputation can make or break you. If negative search results or reviews are impacting you, Webamax is here to help. Our proven process restores your online reputation quickly and effectively, and it matters. Don't let negative results control your narrative. Visit GoWebamax.com and fill out a brief confidential form to see how we can help. Remember, if you aren't paying attention to your online reputation, someone else is. GoWebamax.com.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
And welcome back, everyone, to a new episode of the Skating Penguin Network Mailbag Show. It is once again your host, Robbie, joined by co-host Snail out in Seattle. And before we dive into this week's mailbag, Snail, how are you doing today on this Monday?
Doing good. Monday's off to a decent start. A new week, new opportunities await us all. Super windy over here. Sunny but windy. The weather is being a little bipolar, but yeah, we've had a good weekend. How's it going? How are you doing out there in Western PA? Did you tune into some hockey? What's life like out there in Appalachia?
It's a very nice weekend, very nice day today again. No rain for one, so you have to actually enjoy the outside a little bit without being disturbed. As for hockey, I watched both game sixes. We do have a Stanley Cup final, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the week. But no, yeah, good weekend, good weather. Into June now, so summer is pretty much here. So we're going to enjoy that as long as it lasts before, the bad weather rolls back around. But other than that, it's been a pretty good few days here in Western Pennsylvania.
Nice. How are those Pirates doing?
They're hot or cold. They're bipolar like the weather out in Seattle, I guess you could say.
There you go.
Up and down. They're kind of just hanging around there, and nothing too exciting, unfortunately. But such is life as a Pirates fan. It could be much worse, I will say that.
Potential playoff team?
If things break right, I guess, but a long way to go before we start focusing too much on that.
Dude, I was going to ask you, so I know that Pittsburgh have MLB and NHL, and NFL, but they don't have NBA. They don't have MLS.
No, we have a second tier soccer team.
Yeah, and then you don't have the NLL or the PLL lacrosse teams. Nope. But Philadelphia has those teams. Is there any circumstance where someone from Pittsburgh roots for a Philadelphia team?
I could see in terms of NBA wouldn't surprise me in any way. We do have the Cavs are probably actually closer to Pittsburgh, but I think Philadelphia is probably the better team. Now, when LeBron was here or in Cleveland, it was probably a different story. But I'd say the Sixers, nobody would really care about. I don't want to say I'm sure there's lacrosse fans. I know that the PLL went to home cities this year, so they never really had home cities before. So I can't really say how many people have latched on to the Philadelphia lacrosse team. MLS. I mean, there's a dedicated, passionate, but small soccer fan base in Pittsburgh. That are really dedicated to it's the USL team here in Pittsburgh. So I can't really say much for an MLS who they cheer for, but it wouldn't surprise me there either. I think the really only three no-goes would probably be the Phillies, Flyers, and the Eagles in terms of hardcore cheering for them.
So there's a PLL team in in Carolina. Would you guys would a Pittsburgh person probably be more incentivized to root for a Carolina team as opposed to a Philadelphia named team?
If they care enough about lacrosse, I could see them. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, again, not a huge lacrosse following in the Pittsburgh area. I'm sure there's fans, a smattering of fans, but Pittsburgh's never been on the touring roster for the PLL or anything like that. So,
Oh, really?
No, we've never had.
Well, you're close to Virginia, which is lacrosse is huge.
Yeah.
And Maryland is like the lacrosse capital of the country.
Yeah.
You're close to Maryland as well.
Yeah, I think it's more Eastern Maryland than Western Maryland.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
So I think it's more the DMV zone over there.
That would be DMV zone.
DC, Virginia, and Maryland, like the whole northern, the DC area is definitely
like the
more
DC
of a
metro kind of.
Yeah.
That's where all the big colleges are that play lacrosse, right?
Yeah, DC, Baltimore. You have your Georgetown, Johns Hopkins. Now again, Penn State has a good lacrosse team, but you have Maryland universities in College Park right outside of DC. Then places like Notre Dame and stuff, but we don't have it ingrained like they do on the eastern side of the state. That's for sure.
Yeah, but I've been curious. I've been meaning to ask you that, whether it was on the pod or off air or whatever. But I've been curious because it's like for a long time, Seattle didn't have a hockey team or whatever. We don't have a basketball team, and people here, it's like I don't know if people would, if there was a team on the eastern side of the state, I don't know if you would have people from the west side be a fan of that team. They'd probably root for Portland quicker than they root for that team. So, anyways, just curious. Hey, maybe you guys will get a major league hockey team where you're at.
I don't know. We have a pretty strong fan base with the Penguins already. I don't know if they would put a hockey team here, another hockey team here or not.
Have you seen all that coming out?
I've read about it a little bit, so I'm interested to see how it all plans out and how it all works. But something I'll keep an eye on for sure.
Wonder if they contacted Sidney Crosby.
I probably doubt it.
Why wouldn't you just shoot your shot? It's like, hey, I know you got an opportunity to sign a contract with Pittsburgh, but there's this new league, and we can pay you, quite a bit of money. Play some 3-on-3, 20. What is it, like 24-minute games?
Yeah, something I don't even. I read through the format, but I don't think it's going to be something that grabs on. Maybe it will. I don't know.
It's going to be like Live Golf.
Yeah.
Which is controversy. But anyways, let's get to some questions. We got a bunch of questions from our Euro listeners, our good friends from across the pond. And this first question is coming from our pal Tony Gale for Robbie. And it states here, read a few things lately about Gino's performance this season. Fans calling for a new second line center. Did they not see the end of the season when he had Bunting on the wing? And Tony adds here, he thinks Raquel was certainly more the issue than Gino. And what are your thoughts on maybe some of this Malkin criticism that's coming out here at the beginning of summer?
I mean, Malkin criticism has existed since he stepped on North American soil. It's been varying degrees of lazy, not good enough for the past 15 years now, even a little bit longer than that. I'd like to see him a full season with Michael Bunting because him and Bunting seem to have some chemistry going there. If Raquel's finishing was better, Malkin would have had who knows how many more points. And again, with the power play being so bad, that limited the output and the production from all those top guys, and Malkin included. So interested to see how he gets a full season with Bunting because him and Bunting definitely were cooking after Bunting came over from Carolina. So would love to see that combination come back. Raquel, we don't know what's going to happen to. If he's back next year or not, you would hope that he can't have a season as bad as last year, but he definitely proved that he can at least once. You'd love to see that 30-goal Raquel return because that would definitely help out both Crosby and Malkin and the power play, which in turn benefits everyone. So I don't buy into the Gino criticism just because it's been – I'm so just basically immune to it at this point because I've been listening to it for the past 16, 17 years. So I don't put too much stock in it. He has 2 years left on that contract. He's clearly – he's 37. He's at the end of his career, but he's still a productive player. So for me, the criticism mostly falls flat. Yeah, he takes shifts off sometimes. Always is taking stupid penalties. That's not going to change at this point. but he's still going out there. He's still producing at a great level for what he's making. And I think we just appreciate that and let him just be Malkin.
I mean, dude, he's 37 years old. He had 27 goals, 40 assists for 67 points. Like, I mean, that I don't know what there is to really credit. I think the Penguins power play, if it was cooking, Gino could have had, I mean, he could have been like an 80-point guy this year at 37, and they'd still find reasons to criticize him.
Yeah, he's always going to be criticized in Pittsburgh, and it's unfortunate, but comes with the territory, I guess. Question number 2 from Tony again. Could you ever see Crosby, Malkin, or Letang in a head coach or assistant role after they hang up their skates?
The only one out of the 3 could be maybe Letang. I don't see. I mean, when I think of Crosby coaching, I just think that he just sees the game so much differently than the average player, and you need to be able to relate to your players. We all remember when Gretzky was coaching in Arizona.
Absolutely.
And like that did not, as much as that maybe put some asses in seats, I just don't think that really worked out like anybody was hoping it potentially could. It's always cool to see the stars get back into the game in some capacity. I love seeing like Paul Coffey behind the bench talking to Evan Bouchard. I love seeing Tocchet and his crew behind the bench there with Footer and Gonchar. I love seeing these players kind of come back and continue to affect the game from behind the bench or in some capacity, but it's typically not your superstars, like your top tier superstars that can really coach a team. Sure, you'll have players listening to you and they'll probably do anything, run through a wall for you because of who you are. But it's historically, it's been more the blue collar type players that can really find success in coaching. I always thought Matt Cullen could probably be a hell of a coach if you're looking at former Penguins. I just think that Matt Cullen's maybe more of a guy you could look at and see him coaching someday. Daly's in a player development role. Those kind of glue guys, more blue collar. But Sid, no. Malkin, I mean, he doesn't have the English for it.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to be too motivated to kind of, and I don't blame him. Like, he's a NHL superstar. He doesn't need to coach. He doesn't owe the game much after he's done. Letang kind of does have that spirit. I think that he embodies a bit of that spirit, where I could see him being quite a presence behind an NHL bench. Like, if he retired this year, give it a year or two, wouldn't be shocked to see a guy like Tocchet reach out to. This isn't even like a speculation or anything, but somebody that's familiar with Letang and knows how much of a warrior he is and a leader and what he provided to his teams. I mean, I could see somebody reaching out, or up in his former agent up there in Montreal, his hometown. Wouldn't be surprised if you could see him in some sort of role there, or in Pittsburgh even. But Sid, no. I think Sid's going to be like a Lemieux. You might see him in a press box, maybe some sort of ownership over the team. Malkin's going to be like Yager. He'll be off doing his own thing, probably in Florida on the beaches, and he'll be popping in an ambassador role of some sort. Yeah. Letang, you never know. You got any thoughts on that?
Nah.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to question 3 coming from Tony Gale. Braden Yeager has had a great season with the Moose Jaw Warriors. Will we see him in a Penguins jersey next season? If he's the future, then the future looks good.
I really don't know, Tony. There's so many different options of play for him. He could very well return to Moose Jaw. He could be in the NHL. I'm interested. He'll get invited to camp in September. I'm assuming he'll be at the prospect camp, which is usually in July sometime. If we keep seeing what we've seen out of him, he's going to light up prospect camp. It's not even going to be close. He's just going to light those dudes up. He seems to have taken a full step ahead of pretty much every other prospect in the system. I'm interested in what he would do in camp, because if he comes to camp, I'd say he gets a preseason game. I don't know what the plan is. I really don't. He made such an impression this year that maybe he's ready for that jump. Maybe he needs to put on more size. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how they handle this going forward, because he did have a fantastic season, led Moose Jaw to its first WHL title, and to they played the Memorial Cup for the first time. I don't know what the plan is. I really don't. You kind of get nothing from the front office other than we're really happy with what we've seen out of him. If I was guessing, I would probably say I'm leaning toward he is not with the Penguins next season, and they give him another year of development. But they could always go the route of using their 9-game tryout type thing when he signs his with on an entry level contract. I could see them, and then if it doesn't work out, they send him back to Moose Jaw, and if it does, they keep him. I could see them going that route. I'm just really interested to see what develops over the summer with him, because he had a spectacular season, and he has clearly taken a step as the Penguins' best forward in their system, and clearly looks to be a long-term piece for the franchise in the near future and the long-term future.
Robbie, just quickly, like, this is kind of like pertains to that, like, I'll call it kind of the curse of the Penguins for prospects over the last, I don't even know, like 8-9 years. It's like the fan base gets so excited when they have a promising guy, and when you got a guy on an ELC where the Penguins have been trying to stay in the playoffs, we're you know, you got to remember they're 2 years removed from being in the playoffs now. But it's like, would you like to see them have patience with Jaeger and give him time to really force himself into the lineup, as opposed to being like, this is kind of one of our best cheap guys that we can get up here, let's throw him to the Wolves and see how he does? Like, what would you preferably like to see with a prospect like Jaeger? Because he's a good prospect. He's going to be I think he's going to be an NHL player. It's just it's not a matter of if, but when.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a middle ground between patience, and you don't want to rush him. You definitely don't want to do that. But again, if he comes in and just lights it up, I mean, then you got to at least take a solid look at it. Use your 9-game kind of tryout on that ELC and go from there. Then again, if there's no rushing him, if he's ready, basically it's just pushing him into the fire ahead of schedule. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle this coming down the line.
It's so funny on Twitter. I see stuff. All of a sudden, everyone's a Jaeger expert. And like, granted,
yeah,
maybe Penguins fans are a little bit more tuned into their prospects now because we've had so few over the years. But I just see stuff where they're like, yeah, I'd really like to see Jaeger just slot into that third line center role and put this guy on his wing, and then it's, you know, we're playoff bound that way. And I'm like, well, come on, that guy he's barely stepped on NHL ice, you know, in any sort of serious capacity. So it's just, I think I find it funny, and it's like, I'm kind of with you. It's like, I think we'll get more answers on this closer to after camp.
Yeah. All right. Now we're switching over to Edward here. Edward asks, why is the NHL offseason so long? I always thought the 3-month break between European football seasons was long enough. This is ridiculous, though. Missing it already.
So from that, I take it that Eddie Beckham's not probably watching too much playoff hockey right now, because, I
mean, again, we'll talk in the mailbag part 2. He kind of gives a breakdown of how he watches, and I don't blame him for not watching as much this time of year, simply because.
Is it a time thing?
Oh yeah, it's a time zone thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll talk about that later in the week, but yeah. Maybe he's not. I don't know. There have been plenty of hockey, but I understand missing the Penguins and your favorite team. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've forgotten about when it gets to playoff time and the Penguins haven't been in it now for a couple of years. I don't know. I haven't really been thinking about them too much. I'm always scanning for Penguins news, but these playoffs have been super entertaining, especially this last series, both the conference finals. So, and honestly, I think that the NHL's offseason is typically kind of short, is it not? I mean, like, how long is the NFL offseason?
The NFL, I mean, it ends in February, and games don't start until September. Now, there's a bunch of stuff in between there.
Right. There's like mini camps and stuff, right?
Yeah, but if you're looking for if you're going from game to game, you're going from February to September, whereas the NHL, you're going from anymore late June to early October. So yeah, your window is much. Now again, if your favorite team like the Penguins will obviously go from April to October, which is almost 6 months. 6 months,
yeah, it's a long time.
Like, if you're just a plain out hockey fan, I mean, you know you're going to at least mid-June, if not later. So, the layoff from absolutely no hockey is very short compared to other sports.
You know what you could do, Edward, is you could just go on ESPN Plus or however you watch these games and just rewatch the season. Just every night or every other night, or try to like recreate the schedule. Just rewatch every game, and then by the time you're at heartbreak again from that, when Ned was standing on his head to try to keep him in the hunt and Sid was God mode, it'll be almost time for the season to start again. So that's always an idea for you. But yeah, I don't know. It does seem long, especially now that I'm thinking about it more. Yeah, 6 months that's too long without Penguins hockey, but it'll be here soon enough. Question coming from Edward Beckham again, going to Robbie. He asks us, how near are we to our local NHL teams' arenas?
So I guess, the Penguins would be mine. I'm about 80 miles, 90 minutes roughly between me and PPG Paints Arena. That's the closest I've been. Yeah, so about 80 miles, 90 minutes, somewhere in there. It's actually not really a bad drive at all. You don't have to drive directly downtown. It's there's a way to get there without having to go through all the downtown traffic. So it's not too bad of a drive, but about 90 minutes, about an hour and a half drive for me.
So from PPG Paints Arena, I am 2,514 miles away. It says that it's a 38-hour car ride, which seems short to me because
if you're driving it straight through, that's over a day and a half. But like obviously you'd split it up into like at least 2 or 3 days. How long is a flight?
A flight, let's see here. It says 10 hours and 25 minutes, but there's a connecting stop.
Okay. And I know it's definitely not 10 hours to fly across the country.
No. It's 38 days walking. It's 2 days by train. But
how far are you from Climate Pledge?
I'm almost exactly 12 miles away from Climate Pledge Arena.
So now do you drive when you go to Climate Pledge, or do you like Uber in?
I Uber. Driving in Seattle, everyone complains about the traffic in their city, but it's 12 miles away and it'll take you 45 minutes to get parked. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
How long does it take you to Uber?
It depends, I guess. It depends when you go, but I would say it's like 20 minutes. It's like 20 minutes to just get dropped off. It's finding parking and then walking there or whatever. That takes a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, taking an Uber, you're there in 20, 22 minutes, dropped off right there in front of the stadium. You're in. It's in Climate Pledge too. I don't know about PPG. Is it take a while for you to get in your building? Like if you have tickets?
What?
Like, are the lines, do they move it along quick?
Yeah, it's pretty quick. Again, it's pretty. It's a pretty clean affair to get in the building. It's pretty much all mainstream. And PPG has quite a few entrances that fans can get in at. So it's not like they're trying to shoehorn everybody into like 1 or 2 entrances. There's quite a few ways to get in. So it's and we usually get there right as gates open. So it's usually pretty smooth when I go, at least. I'm sure sometimes some people, if they're arriving late, could struggle, but I usually try to get there a little bit early, get some food, watch warm-ups, and take it all in. But it's relatively. I've never had an issue where I thought it was an exorbitant amount of time to get in.
I'm always shocked I like to cut it close. I don't really like to get there too early. I like to get there right when the Allegiance, the national anthem. I like to get there right when the national anthem starts. There can be a line out the wazoo, and it's so quick. On the ballpark, on the other hand, though, I don't know what it's like out there at PNC Park. Dude, if getting into a Mariners game takes you like an hour and a half, it sucks.
PNC, well, nobody goes to Pirates games. Now, again, if there's events going on, then it'll be busy, but generally pretty smooth there as well. Again, multiple, especially if there's entrances that are kind of tucked away that people don't. Even if you're not sitting like near there, that people don't use as frequently as like the main gates that you can sneak in. There's maybe a couple vestibules, and they're really just wanding you down if you have a bag, checking that, and then scanning your ticket. It doesn't take, if you know the right entrance to go, or the right gate to go in, you can usually beat the crowds because of like on the back of the stadium. There's not really parking; it's more for people walking. So the driving people all park up front, and the walking people come. So there's more people that drive. So it's generally, if you know where to go in, you can get in pretty quickly. Heinz Field, just because they're trying to shove so many people in there, that can be a headache. But for the most part, the entry experience is not too bad at any of the arenas or stadiums. And
quickly, how far away did you live from PPG Paints?
I'm about 80 miles from my house.
Oh, wow, 80. That's pretty, that's a little ways away.
Yeah, I mean, if I lived like about a half hour closer or 45 minutes closer, I would probably invest in like one of those 10-game plans or something like that.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
I know the one year, this was in 17-18, me and a friend, it was after the 2 cups, and like people were just kind of like burnt out a little bit from Penguins hockey.
Really?
And it was just like, okay, let's just get to the playoffs. Like, it's just, yeah. And tickets were being sold for like, oh man, like $10 a pop and stuff like that. So we went to like 10 games that year and spent like maybe $250 in tickets. It was a pretty good deal.
That's pretty good deal, man.
Yeah, that again. But if I lived like 45 minutes closer, I'd probably invest in a 10-game plan that way, because it would be less than an hour drive in to go to a game. And there's plenty of parking around. We're not like Climate Pledge. There's plenty of parking around the arena where it's not hard to get in and out. And our entrance to the expressway is like right like a half a mile from the arena, so it's pretty quick in and out. Just some stoplight traffic, pretty much.
Do you ever just like get a hotel down there?
Not for a Penguins game. No, I don't think so.
Steelers game, because you're getting crippled drunk at those.
I don't know if I ever got. I don't go to many Steelers games because they're just, man, that's an experience. It's just such a trip. It's just so many people.
Yeah.
Penguins games, I don't think I ever have. Pirates games, I don't think I have either. And
you're not like that far, I guess. Like, you're not that where it's like you're not driving from like State College or something.
And if anything, we'll just hang out at the casino for like an hour and let it wear off, and you're pretty much fine after.
Is there a casino, right? Is it that casino they always talk about that I always hear what's his name doing the ads for?
Yeah, it's right. It's literally, so it's on the opposite end of PNC Park, but it's like right next to the Steelers Stadium. And it's free parking.
What?
Yeah, it's free parking. All you have to do is you just have to enter and exit through the casino. And yeah, we don't gamble or anything, so we just park there for free, walk. Yeah, it's much nicer than paying $25.
Those words don't exist in Seattle. No one here would yeah, that's not a thing. That's never been a thing. Well, we can move on from that. That was that's crazy to hear though. Free parking, just you got to use the casino. That's a trap.
Yeah. Andreas Castle here, getting into the fray with the question: do you think it would be possible that an NHL team could have a head coach that has never played hockey?
Yeah, I mean, it can happen.
I don't know what he means by never played hockey. Are we talking like it's never put on skates in his life? Or are we talking somebody that has never played in the NHL? Because
certainly not the NHL, I think. But if you haven't laced up skates, you can't even run a practice.
Yeah, like that was like, okay, you could work in a front office if you understand that. But actually coaching, like, again, I don't want to be like a gatekeeper or anything, but I think that you have to have some kind of playing experience, even if it's just like an ECHL. Like, again, there's great coaches that have just played
or college, WHL, OHL. Like, I mean, even just being Canadian, where you've at least strapped on a pair of skates and can actually cross over, and you have some bearings under you. But let's be honest here, like, I'm sure like some number crunching nerd who like knows systems and X's and O's and has studied NHL 06 through, EA Sports' NHL 06 through 2024 could probably have some creative and clever ideas to run a team. But you got to think about the other end of that, where it's like, how do you get the buy-in from your players? If he's telling you to go into the corners and and don't back away from a 50-50 puck. I mean, there are going to be some players that are like, how are you telling me to do that and you've never done that yourself? You know what I mean? That's what I would worry about. I don't care how much of a genius the guy is. I feel like there's just going to be some, because I feel like I would think that way. If your coach has never played, the buy-in. I remember when I played baseball, when I was playing travel league, my coach won a World Series with the Oakland Athletics. One of the guys who drafted me, Bob Stoddard, played for the Mariners. There was Carlos Guillen, longtime MLBer. He owned a team that we played against, and his personal trainer was their coach. So when you're a kid, you're just like, dude, I will run through a wall. I'll listen to whatever these guys say because they've been there, done that. And it's so much different than maybe a parent on the team who's never played the game and he's showing up with a briefcase and a suit on trying to tell you to hustle the first faster. You're like, shut up, you never ran a first before. So like that's my thinking, but I could be so wrong. I don't know. I guess whoever if you trust the guy, you trust the guy, but in my opinion, you have to have some experience in hockey at some point. And like I said earlier, if you can't ice skate, you can't run a practice even.
Paul Maurice never played a professional hockey game.
When I saw this question when you mailed it in, he was the first guy I thought of because he's never played a pro game before.
He played 4 years in the OHL with the Windsor with the Windsor Spitfires.
Yeah.
He played 4 years there, 189 games. He's coached. He's had great success at the NHL level, but he never. He literally. Basically joined. He played for the Junior Red Wings. Oh no, he became just an ambassador then after his career.
Did he get hurt? Or did he just not have it? What are the numbers looking like on there? Because that would be a good.
No, he was not. He in 189 games he totaled 40 points.
That's juniors too.
Yeah, that's true. That's juniors. Where like if you aren't, So. Yeah, Paul Maurice. I was just like picking random coaches that came up on Google, and like I thought maybe like Jim Montgomery, but he played.
No, he was a good NCAA guy.
Sheldon Keefe, but like Claude Julien played 14 games at the NHL level, but played almost 500 at the AHL level. Great coach.
Great coach. I was gonna look up. Did Jay Woodcroft play hockey? Let's see here. Oh, he did.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become? Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Oh yeah, he played NCAA for 4 years at U of Alabama Huntsville.
Yep. Chris Knobloch never played a professional hockey game.
Let's see here. The ECHL, that's Jackson Bandits. Dude, Jay Woodcroft spent some time in the South. He was in Missouri, Jackson, Alabama, Flint, Michigan. That's not Corpus Christi. Is that in the South?
Yeah, that's Texas.
That's Texas. Interesting.
Yeah, Chris Knobloch never played a professional hockey game either. Played a bunch of junior and a bunch of junior hockey, but never. He said he played one season as a semi-professional, but never a full-time professional anywhere. So.
Didn't the Buffalo Sabres have that one coach who was a soccer coach? There's no way that guy played hockey.
I have no idea.
He was coaching him, I think, in like, I don't know. It's hard to even like bookmark a year with them because it's like, oh yeah, that year they didn't make the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs in fucking over a decade. So
yeah,
they had a soccer coach coaching Jack Eichel and is it Jeff Skinner?
Yeah, Skinner was there too. Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it, Robbie. I feel like you probably feel the same. Like you said, you kind of feel the same.
Yeah, you think you'd have to have some kind of playing experience, regardless of the level doesn't necessarily matter, but like never playing hockey, I don't necessarily know if that could be. that can happen.
No, I don't think so. I just don't. Yeah, I don't see how that would happen. But how do you? Yeah, maybe a front office guy. You never know. I don't know. Not worth thinking about too much. But let's move on here to a question from Tony Gale, and he asks, "Have you ever visited the Hockey Museum in Toronto? It's on his bucket list of items to see. One of the bucket list items is to see the Stanley Cup."
So I'm assuming he means the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. I have been there. I was much younger. I've seen the Stanley Cup multiple times outside of there.
Did you touch it?
I did not touch it.
Did you do that on purpose or because you just didn't get close enough?
Well, they generally don't want you to touch it if you're just getting your picture taken with it. And the guy, Phil Pritchard, or his companion, the character that will travel around too, they're generally just there. I mean, there's a reason they wear the white gloves. Yeah, it's a little. I wouldn't say they would like yell at you if you touched it. Like if you just put your arm around, they probably wouldn't say anything. But if you were like purposely trying to do something, they would definitely probably pull you away. So I'm just gonna stand here, get a picture. It's such a cool just experience, just because, I mean, you can see the names on it, like it's all right there. Like you can't miss them. It's really a really cool experience. So if you ever get a chance, anyone, I would definitely see it. I don't know how often it goes overseas outside of players using it, taking it for their day at the Cup. But yeah, if you ever get to Toronto, definitely go to the Hockey Hall of Fame. Very cool experience. Very, very interesting. A lot of hockey history. It's been a while since I've been there, so I'd like to go back. But definitely worth your time if you are in Toronto. So that's my travel recommendation if you ever go up north. All right, another question from Tony here, and he asks, where will Alex Nedeljkovic be in September? Will Dubas use some of the cap space to keep him?
Probably not. I love Ned. I don't. He captured the hearts of many on that stretch run down at the last couple weeks of the season. He's a battler. You hear that a lot with goaltenders. He battles, Jari battles, but Ned was really battling in there, and he was one of the reasons why the Penguins were even sniffing around a playoff spot. And with that said, I just think that Dubas signed Jari to that contract that we all know he's signed to. And I just don't see the only thing that would make that Ned being signed possible is if Dubas has been working the phones while the playoffs have been going on, and there's a team who was in the playoffs or was close to the playoffs who is now out of the playoffs, and they don't have a goaltender. They want a number one guy, like maybe a Western team or something, looking at a guy like Jari. But a lot of stuff, the more stuff that has to happen for that to come to fruition, the more I just believe that it's like Jari signed, and they've got Blomqvist, who, you know, there's a lot of anticipation around, but he looks shaky in the playoffs in the AHL, and you know, does he need another year to maybe develop? I think Ned could probably get himself a decent contract in the open market.
Yeah.
And it's just a long-winded way of me saying where do I see him? I don't know. Maybe in I could see Ned being in the West somewhere. I could see him being in, God, does San Jose need a better goaltender? No, they're still a few years away from even trying
they're
to
not
do
gonna
better.
they're not gonna trade. They're probably not gonna.
You know who might need them is the Los Angeles Kings. They've got Big Save Dave Riddick and what's his name? Something Talbot. Cam Talbot. And, you know, Cam wasn't it for them. They could use Ned's still young. Maybe they'd look at signing him to something shorter term with some, you know, decent coins so that they could shore up maybe the goaltending there. There's always a team like, you know, who doesn't have a goaltender really right now is Toronto. I don't see them re-signing Ilya Samsonov. They've got that kid who's the kid from Boston or whatever. You never know. So maybe like a Toronto, maybe a LA. Where do you see him, Robbie? What's your synopsis?
I mean, like you said, unless they move on from Jari, I just don't see him. I think someone's going to offer him enough that's going to pull him away from Pittsburgh. Now, if they would move Jari, then the conversation quickly changes. But as of right now, I would say that he is going to be playing somewhere else next year. I think he could easily get even a 2-year deal with a nice salary that keeps him comfortable in a place like I don't know about Toronto, but like even a place like San Jose. Like you said, they're not trying to win unless they think he would be too good, and they would shy away from that. But I think he'll be somewhere. He gets a nice chunk of change. He played really well down the stretch. Obviously, you can't run him into the ground, but I think the next team he goes to probably won't use him like that. So unless Jari's gone, I wouldn't put my money on Ned coming back, as much as I hate to say that, because I think he would be a great player to have.
I'm going to ask you this question. I'm putting you on the spot, and you're going to be forced to show your true colors here. Is there a world where you'd rather have Ned signed to something lower with maybe some term and having Jari off the books completely?
Yeah, right now.
You would right now want that?
Yeah, I'd take it right now.
I'd take that deal every day of the week.
I would take that deal. I'd see where you're at with Blomqvist. If you don't feel that he's quite ready yet, I would go out and try to do something. I wouldn't even say make a blockbuster goalie trade, because I'm not sure if that's necessarily possible, unless Boston is very serious about moving on from Swayman or Ullmark. But yes, if you could tell me right now, the Penguins have a deal for Tristan Jari, and it's really just getting that money off the books for a couple low-level prospects or some late-round picks, I take it in a heartbeat.
I'm right there with you. All right, another question from Tony Yale. Do you think the Penguins will make a big signing during the offseason like they did last year with Karlsson? That wasn't a signing, that was a trade, but I think you catch his drift.
I catch his drift. I don't know. Again, would you count Jari as that if they're just moving him out? I think I would.
That would be seismic.
Yeah, that would be, because like, especially when it's a year after giving him that big contract, like that would be absolutely massive. I think a big signing would be somehow getting Jake Gensel to come back. That would be a seismic as well. That would be potentially, I don't want to call it franchise altering, but in a way it could be. I mean, especially if those guys that they got in the trade for him pan out, like that is a huge potential to think about.
What about a coach? What about a power play coach, assistant coach? Couldn't that be a big signing?
It could be, absolutely. Yeah, we wouldn't know until the season started, but yeah, that could absolutely be the big signing the Penguins make. I've heard the name Dakota Joshua thrown around. I wouldn't call that a big signing because he's not going to be out there. Yeah, he's not going to be out there scoring like 30 goals or anything like that. But he would be excellent for the bottom six. I don't necessarily think necessarily a big signing is coming to the Penguins either. Again, you make a blockbuster to move on from like Jari, I think is right there as well. Again, Karlsson was such a unique situation because we're talking about coming off a Norris Trophy / a future Hall of Famer, a completely that was just, there's so many moving parts there. I don't know if we'll get anything that big, but I definitely think they could do something that would make headlines if they would do it. So I would not rule it out of the question. Not saying you're going to get a future Hall of Famer, but I think there's definitely the opportunity to make a splash move that turns some heads.
Dude, when did Trocheck sign? Did he signed a 7-year deal with the Rangers?
Yeah, he signed the same year that Malkin did, because there was all that talk about signing Trocheck over Malkin.
Oh no, I thought he signed a 1-year deal.
No,
I don't know why I thought that all season. I was like, Trocheck will be UFA at the end of the year. Penguins should sign him.
Dude, he probably wishes he was going to be a UFA at the end of the year.
After the year he had, he'd be
getting bank.
Give him 8.5. Give him Aho money. 9.
Well, he's only making 5.6. He'd easily be pushing $8 million.
How old is he? Yeah, he's 30.
Oh, dude, they don't care. They'll sign him to a 5-6 year deal. He does take a beating, but I definitely, somebody would pay stupid money for Vincent Trocheck. So
Dubas should have paid Stupas, but then we wouldn't. Then it's I wouldn't. I wanted them to keep Gino. Like I am on that train. But God, this whole year I was just like, dang, he's going to be UFA after that year. The Penguins should sign him to like something.
Yeah,
like
absolutely. But he was the same year as Malkin.
That's right. That all sounds pretty familiar because there was all that talk that maybe that the Penguins were going to move off Malkin and bring in hometown kid.
Yep.
And that's a shame.
All right, wrapping up this mailbag part 1 here. We're back with Tony. Any news floating around Pittsburgh yet about a Crosby contract extension, or is it likely to happen after the final puck is dropped on the season?
Well, from what I gather from the listeners, is that there's Sid, he wants to stay in Pittsburgh. Him and Dubas have probably chatted a bit. They're just going to wait for that July 1. But there is nothing yet. I'm curious, Robbie, what would your sort of like level of concern be with if we started the puck drop for game 1 of the season and Sid hasn't signed?
There would be some concern because especially when the expectation was July 1st, he's going to sign. Just put it out of your head. He's going to sign. You'll be fine. There would definitely be some concern if that was the case, but until that becomes the case, I'm not going to worry. Actually, I won't worry until the puck drops on game 1 and there's no new contract. Let's put it like that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Robbie. I could see a world where that's the case. And I'm not being glass half empty or anything like that, but you never know after a season, after everything settles. Sid's had some time to really think about his, how the season went, talk with, there's probably been some moving and shaking behind the scenes. I don't know, man. But I think he will sign. I think that even if he signed and he ended up wanting out of Pittsburgh, which he's stated he wants to stay in Pitt. It's not like a team wouldn't be able to make that trade happen if he wanted out. You know what I mean?
And that's like everything like this. That's what drives me completely crazy about all these trade Crosby to Colorado kind of things. Like he's on record. Like it's not like Crosby said that he wants to do that. Like it's on record that he wants to stay in Pittsburgh his entire career. Like, are you not listening? Like it's so annoying. And it's going to be, it's going to be so funny when he does sign on July 1st and everybody was pushing these stories about trading him to Colorado and all this other stuff have to like eat a little bit of crow. It's just going to be so glorious, especially like Michael K and Biz. Shut up, guys. Like, yeah.
Brian Hayes in Toronto. Those guys.
Like Michael K, just focus on the Yankees. Biz, Crosby better than that. You played with him. And Brian Hayes is just a Canadian journalist doing what a Canadian journalist does. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Or what about at the draft, Gary Bettman's like, you're going to want to hear this. And he's like, Sidney Crosby's been traded to the Colorado Avalanche for like Colorado's first round picks for the next 8 years. And I don't know.
That's what I would do. If somebody wants them, if somebody would call me and I was Kyle Dubas, I would just be like, all right, fine. You want to talk? Here's the wish list. And it's just like, okay, you want Crosby, we want Makar and Rantanen and your first.
They would never do that.
No,
but yeah, that's where the conversation would start, right? You need something you need to fill that. Anyways, we don't need to start talking about what the team looks like without Sid, but it sounds like he's gonna sign, and until he doesn't sign, until the puck drops in the second week of October, and there's still no contract in place. Oh my God, that'll be a noisy year if that's the case. Yeah. Every loss, you're gonna be like, well, how long until we start tracking flights of Sid to Colorado?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well.
Yeah, that questions. Is part one of this.
Oh, part one. We got part two this week?
Yeah, we had 20 questions. This part, you'll notice it on Thursday, but this was mostly hockey. The one on later in the week will be focused more on some follow-ups from some listeners about, we talked about traveling and stuff like that. So that one will be focused more on that. I believe we're not going to reveal anything, but I believe Snell and I have an interview coming up on Wednesday with a individual we've talked about on the podcast. That will be out on hopefully Thursday. Get that up and get that out for you guys. So keep attention for that. I'm not going to spill it. We'll just say that we have an interview coming up. And then we'll be back on Thursday with Mailbag Part 2. And Snail and I can probably also throw in some discussion about the Stanley Cup Final, which begins on Saturday between the Florida Panthers, who everybody expected, and the surprise of the playoffs, if you can have that at this point, the Edmonton Oilers, who were outshot 35-10 in Game 6 and won 2-1 to advance to the Stanley Cup Final. Snail and I will break it down, make some picks, and put a Conn Smythe vote down as well after our mailbag. So you can tune in for that. But so 3 episodes coming to you this week. This one
busy
and
week.
then busy week. We think you're going to like the interview once you guys hear it. So stay tuned for that. We'll make sure that gets out to you guys as well. So Snell, any last words?
That's it from me, Robbie.
All right, guys. As always, thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys later in the week with some good content. Enjoy your day.